I think when you have a vinyl collection, you have to literally pick out the record. You have to put it on there. You might, if some DJs, if you're a DJ and you like that, you can, switch it around really quick. But I think most people just genuinely, you sit with it and have more of a moment, and that passing that down and passing that intentionality down, like I say, like for my future kids, I want them to know what my music taste was dope, so they can know what was going on or what I enjoyed to listen to, and they can take that and then build on that, and that could be foundational to what they listen to. So.
Hey, it's Kim Sakara. Welcome to the Angle of Sound podcast. Today I have with me a very special guest from Southside Jamaica, Queens, but based in Brooklyn now. She is a music lover, an entrepreneur, a cultural conservator, founder of Vinyl Collector Club Liner Notes based here in New York. I'd like to welcome Doechii Wiggins.
Hi.
Thank you for coming today.
Of course, Kim. Congratulations.
Thank you for Angles of Sound. So today we're just going to have a conversation about what we both love, which is music.
Mm-hmm.
So first, I just want to start out with your upbringing as far as like music goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you were born in Brooklyn, but you were raised in Southside Jamaica, Queens.
Hey.
So what was your musical environment like? What did it consist of growing up? Like your neighborhood, your household? What were you hearing in those?
Yeah, so in my household, my mother was a singer. I grew up listening to gospel like a lot in the church. So it was the times when I wasn't home that I was listening to everything else. You know what I'm saying? So growing up having that, my mom came from a musical family, so she was more of the soul and the funk and stuff like that. My grandfather was a recording artist. So I had a lot of mixture of that in my lifetime. Growing up in Southside, I feel like we have some of the biggest artists that come from hip hop, like 50 Cent, Nicki Minaj. But I grew up seeing more of the local people, like the Lost Boys, or there's some. I guess they would be underground artists, but they had some pop, like Ali Vegas. LL Cool J is one of the biggest artists from Queens. So just seeing all of that, those were my biggest influences, and seeing that outside in my neighborhood was within reach. So yeah.
And speaking about, like, I know you said your mom was a singer, and so you grew up in a family of musicians. Yeah. Even though you yourself are not a musician or a singer.
No, I can hold a note maybe in the back, but turn the mic down. But no, I didn't ever feel like I wanted to pursue being like an artist per se. It wasn't really what I was called to do. Like in church, I would be in the choir just because my mom wanted me to. But outside of that, I didn't really want to be an artist.
You attended the same church as LL Cool J?
Yeah. So he went to Allen AME, that's in on Merrick. And so they're known for their choir. Some of the most renowned singers is actually like Melanie Daniels. She did background for Mariah Carey. So like seeing people like that, and she's just known for her range and her higher octaves, it was like, oh, that's so dope. But yeah, seeing LL Cool J, he'll just come on a Sunday and it's just like he'll be chill with his wife and in the crowd and chill. But it's dope to like see people give back to their community in that way.
And so growing up in church, like we know that gospel music is very foundational to many other musical genres. But how would you say that growing up in church influenced you musically overall? And how did having that foundation influence the way you understand and experience other genres?
I think from the production standpoint of the parts of music, like we see all of that process. And then also the soul, like I think that's to me one of the most important things. And I think that's the most vibrant thing that Black people have given to the world in general, of music having soul. So though all the famous soul singers we know from back in the day that's being sampled now, that still is reverberating within the culture, you know what I'm saying? So they all pretty much started from the church back then, not the same now, unfortunately. But it's funny because I think a recurring conversation has been lately of the R&B singers don't have that gospel. They didn't grow up in the church. So I think that is impacting how we hear music and how R&B is made currently. But in answer to your question, I do feel like a lot of that gospel, the three parts, the harmonies, the bass lines, the bands, like all of that impacted how I hear music. So the musicality and how I listen to a hip hop song, a jazz song, or any other genre is based off of those foundations of what I grew up listening to.
Gems, gems. And so would you say that you remember a specific moment that you fell in love with music?
I don't think there was like a specific moment. I think I was born into it. So, like I was telling you, I didn't really feel like I wanted to be a singer or a rapper or any of these things. I had like a bar tucked in, like in the tuck. Like I feel like one day I feel like I'm gonna just make one song and that's it. But I think it really was it was innate to me. Like I think I've always just like had some of my most introspective moments, my most sane moments. It's gotten me through so many different things that I've turned to and found an emotion for because and I don't want to get too deep, but I think a lot of the times like music has spoke for me when I couldn't. So it was the times where I associated whatever feeling with a song. And so that helped guide me through life a lot.
That like segues perfectly into my next question. So I know you're from Queens, like I said, and so Tribe is one of your favorite rap groups. If it's is your favorite rap group,
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Tied with G Unit, but I'm gonna go Tribe first. Yes.
So for the sake of this question,
Yes,
we're gonna
no,
say
it's perfect.
Tribe.
No, it's perfect.
And so you said you heard Check the Rhyme at a young age, and the opening line says, "Back in the days on the Boulevard of Linden." What's the next? What's next?
Back in the day in the Boulevard of Linden, I used to. I'm
That's
bugging
your favorite
right now.
group?
I know. Don't do me like this. And the presence was good. The abstract. Yes, it's one of my favorite songs, and I think even seeing that video, it's like where I'm from, and like just even hearing like back in the days on the Boulevard of Linden, it's like, oh, I literally used to be on the Boulevard of Linden. I literally used to see like I didn't really get to see a lot of Tribe because by the time when I was younger, they were already gone and into their own thing. But it was dope to even just see the Cleaners or just know that, oh, that's somewhere I can literally see. I could walk down the block and literally be on Linden.
And you talking about like you literally seeing Linden Boulevard, hearing it in the music. So how would you say that like music has helped you feel seen and heard and understood in ways that other mediums haven't?
I think the biggest part, like I said, it was able to speak for me in ways that I couldn't. I'm one big part about hip hop that's the biggest aspect that resonates with me is the ability for people to write and articulate themselves. Um, for me, that's always been something that's been a little bit of a struggle for me. As out extroverted as I am, sometimes I'm like the times when I'm reclusive, I don't always have the words to put to it. So the people that I revere the most in music are able to write in a way that's poetry, to say the least, but to articulate words and put feelings and make something live where generally like books can do it. I think writers in general are the best at what they do. But art, I was never the person that could I can't even draw a stick figure. So for me, that was emphatic. But I'm definitely like, I love and revere art. But I think it was the abstract feeling of something I can feel, the sound, like all of it meshed together is how I can bring it all together in that.
And getting, I guess, like into poetry and just like the power of language. I know you have your bachelor's in linguistics. And so how would you say that this deeper understanding of language influences the way you digest music from a lyrical perspective?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's the foundation to all of our communication. Like, so going to school for linguistics, a lot of what they teach you are the basics of how words are formed. So in applying that to how I hear music, and then that's how I interpret artistry a little bit differently because I'm hearing how you're putting this word together, how you're putting the syllable together on a beat, on over music. Like, I think when people are really intentional with it, that's what, to me, that's the artistry that I like. Because I'm like, oh, like, you thought about how to do all of that under there. I would never have thought that. Or how you put these words together to rhyme and have these long rhyme schemes. And I think, to talk about Tribe, like, Fife was one of my favorite rappers because he was very witty in the way, and like, he's also Trini, so he was able to glide on the beat in a way where it's like, oh, you were doing that in the 90s, like how you were bopping, but also bringing some of your patois and your like swag to it in a way. So I like hearing like those phonemes and these syllables applied to the rap, and it's just like, oh wow, that's dope to me.
Yeah. Like there's so many different things that you get really deep into it.
Right.
And so getting more into like your music growing up as more into your journey as growing up as a music lover, you eventually got into crate digging. And so tell me, how did you initially get into vinyl?
Well, so back in the day on the Boulevard Linden, no. Back in the day, I had like, my grandfather would have some records, and my pet like had it to my mom, and we would look through, but then we lost them all. So I was like, something about like a few years later when I became late in my teenage years, and young adult, I was like, honestly, I feel like I missed like actually looking at an album, you know what I'm saying? So that was kind of where I was like exploring, like, okay, how do I source like all these samples? How do I like, we had the LimeWire days of, and I think that was our digital digging, right? Of like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to look for this song. Like, now I feel like it would be cool if we can have something like, I really just want to have it physically, and I really just want to look through it. So that kind of evoked me going to, like, at that time, it was like Urban Outfitters was just starting to have like records back in there. So I was like, all right, let me go get a record, and like, let me just start. I saw they had the little briefcase.
I remember.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm looking at this. So that's kind of where I transitioned back into digging as an adult.
And what was your first vinyl record?
My first vinyl.
Like, what was the first one that made an impression if you don't remember your first one?
So actually, the first one that made an impression, because my friends one Christmas, like after I started back digging, they bought me Midnight Marauders by Tribe Called Quest.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I felt so seen, because I was like, oh my God, y'all love me. Like, but yes, that was the first one that made an impression.
It all
Obligatorily.
goes back to Tribe.
I know, my Tribe.
So out of your love for vinyl, you started the club Liner Notes, which recently just celebrated its 1-year anniversary.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Liner Notes is a vinyl collector club where music lovers and connoisseurs connect in celebration of Black artists and music history. So walk me through the story of this club from its inception to its first meeting at Legacy Dumbo.
Yeah, so shout outs to Legacy. That's our vinyl home. Me and the owner, Ali, we were just having a discussion about like programming at the shop. And also, it's been on my heart. Like, I was like, yo, I see there's always like book clubs. Like, what about having like a book club, but for vinyl? You know what I'm saying? So I was like, he was like, that would be a dope idea. So I was like, all right, cool. Let me see how I'm gonna like build this out. And honestly, the name Liner Notes kind of just came to me in the sense of, like I said, I wanted that physical opening up the album feeling. And like, I was like, and it took me a second to be like, okay, what am I gonna name this thing? Like, I needed something compelling, because I feel like everybody, like, one thing about vinyl is like, I think everybody has like the grooves and the spins and all these things, but I also wanted to tell like not just the stories of the people that's on the cover. I kind of wanted to get deeper into the people that's inside the sleeves. So that's when Liner Notes came to me, and I was like, okay, yeah, I want to tell the story about the person who wrote this, and I also want to talk about the story of the bass person. I want to tell the story about the background singer, because again, even going back to me talking about the church, these are the people that have carried a lot of the music that we know. And I think obviously I would love to talk to all the artists that's like on the front, but I think all of it takes a community effort. So it was just like breaking all those things down. So we had our anniversary in December, and we had a legendary bassist. His name is Cecil McBee. He's known for playing with Alice Coltrane, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, and just telling stories about his jazz journey and his upbringing. So that was like, I feel like the most monumental event so far, because those are the stories I want to tell. Like those are the people who I want to highlight. So more from that this year. That's what I'm excited to do, and tell those stories more. So yeah.
And liner notes is like a perfect name for that. Like it says exactly what it is you're trying to say.
Yeah, I think that was what I was like, oh, this meet really epitomizes everything to me. So
it's just a super dope. I remember when I discovered it, I was
yes,
like, what is this club?
Kim definitely has attended multiple events and he's bought some dope albums. Yeah.
But it's so dope. So I love the club. I think like it's, like you said, a book club for music nerds, you know, so a place for people to gather. So I think that's super cool. And so you mentioned a little bit, but each month the club celebrates a different theme, from like era-based themes like favorite 90s record to genre-based themes like favorite NYC hip-hop MC. So what is your process of choosing these monthly themes for the club?
Sometimes I base it based off of the month. Like one of the biggest events we had was our Funk and Soul event. So it landed on Record Store Day and 420. So the theme was funk. And so everybody brought a funk theme record, and it was like a dope celebration. We were just talking about funk as how much it's been so impactful in the 70s. So things like that. But then there's also been ones where I based it off of my like things that I'm also passionate about. So one of them was called Roses and Rhythm, where I'm very into flowers and like bouquet making. So I had like a workshop where we were making small bouquets and we were dedicating, like, you know, giving artists their flowers. So that was what the event was. So it's a mix of, maybe sometimes it's thematic toward the month or what's happening, but then also it's different subject matter that I feel like is relevant and like I'm passionate about.
And I know you're speaking like about the funk month.
Yeah.
I just love like the age range. I remember that specifically. It's just
Yes.
like so many people from just across, I guess, different age ranges just coming together and talking about music. It's super cool.
And I think that's the most beautiful part, right? Like it's not it doesn't pigeonhole, like you have to know every single thing. You have to know who hit that one triangle in the song. Like
But
it could be,
do.
yeah,
People,
there's some people who
know.
do. Like I think that's the range too. Like there's the range of knowledge, like, but from anybody can come in like at any level, and even if you have one record or if you have 400, like you could still come. So
Yes.
I think that's really the dope part. And like you said, you could be 7, you could be 67, and you could still have and enjoy the conversation.
Yeah, I think it's super dope. And so, like, speaking about, like I said, bringing people together from all different age ranges, different demographics, how would you say that you think community plays a role in shaping each of our own unique musical experiences? And what do you think is the key to creating a safe space for people to get together, discuss music, and share?
I think community plays a big part. I mean, I wouldn't be anywhere with liner notes without it being a community, and that was very integral into me planning and creating it, because I think I always say it's like a safe space for music nerds to just nerd out, like the conversations that you may not be able to have with like your best friend. Y'all vibe on a song, but are you like talking about, yo, so I saw that this person, he was also on this song, they produced that song. Like, I think that's the community that people want to have those conversations and feel like, oh, I'm learning something, but also I'm receiving, like we're on the same level in terms of having those conversations. I think in making sure that people feel safe, that the knowledge that they have, like it goes back to what I'm saying, like you don't have to know everything, but also being open to being like, oh, that's a dope perspective, or even hearing like, oh, I didn't even know that. Let me Google that on the side. Just like let me remind myself to look that up later, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that is really a big community is a big part of it, because I think as Black people, I think that is core to anything we do in any cultural movement, and specifically with music. And I hope and pray, like moving forward in the upcoming years, that we kind of get back to that, because things are very individualized. And I understand everybody get your money, like get your hustle on, but how we really move forward as a culture is based on everybody contributing to this culture that we love. And I think sometimes with Black music, our music has been done by other people because we haven't embraced each other in doing the same thing. So the community is important, because I think that we all should just be united in a culture that we created and we built.
And your club is like a perfect place for that. And I know
Thank
you touched on like there being a bunch of people there that just know everything.
No, the littlest
Everything.
thing.
I'm like, how do you know that? But they know everything about music. And so I know whenever I go there, I always learn something new.
Mhm.
And so, in your opinion, how important is Black musical education in understanding our history overall as Black people?
Oh, very important. I think if we think about all the biggest cultural movements in history, the first thing that comes to mind is the civil rights movement. We had jazz. Even before that, we had the Harlem Renaissance, where a lot of like jazz artists were having these conversations. And we recently lost like Nikki Giovanni. Like I'm thinking about poetry along with music. Like she had an album back then with her poetry on music. Civil rights movement, we had a lot of people in the 60s and 70s creating music. It's integral for expressing the things that we want, and it's integral for telling our stories and our firsthand experiences that in a way that nobody else can do that.
And staying on this topic of history, you've mentioned multiple times, but I know you're very big on source, on finding samples. And like listening to sampling in music is literally like listening to history.
Hmm.
Like for some, it evokes nostalgia. For others, it introduces them to records they didn't even know existed.
Right.
And so, as a person that's very big into samples, what are some of your most memorable discoveries you've made when finding the source of a sample? And are there like any unforgettable artists or songs you found through this process?
So last year I had went to the Renaissance of Queen Bee, and she had a mashup in her set where it was her song Flaws and All, but it in the back up it was Adventures in the Land of Music by Dynasty, and they're a group from LA from the 70s. And it's also that is the sample for This Is It by
Okay, that's what
Lucchini.
I was like, I think.
And so literally when I heard that at this concert, I literally was like, like I screamed, because I was like, I mean, and I could go into Beyonce all day long, but her mashups with songs are very like top tier, and I think she doesn't get enough credit for it. But hearing that was like one of those things that gave me chills. And I listened to the video. Like I go back to my concert videos a lot, because I do go to concerts a lot. But that one I went back to a lot, because I was like, just hearing all of that and the journey and the intention of how she put that together was dope. Sampling is very dope to me, because I think it bridges generations in music specifically. We're able to explore so many things. And when we were just talking about the cultural stories and revolutions, like, or just even where they were, the art of what they were hearing and what they were creating, we're able to go through that journey.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I feel like it's like teleports us back, you know? So I like when people are innovative and create a mashup. I do like covers sometimes if it's done well. But the samples, I feel like if you're able to like really take the essence of what that is and make something your own, it just makes the song live on and on forever.
I agree. Like sampling, like you said, it bridges generations, and sampling in itself, I don't think people talk enough about like how much of an art form it is in itself. Like people, you're like, how did you hear that from that? Like,
Right. But then there's sometimes where the song like the older song doesn't even need to be messed with, because like my most recent example is like Kendrick Lamar on the Heart Part 6. Like one of my favorite R&B groups is SWV, and he sampled one of my favorite SWV song is Use Your Heart. And in that, I feel like you didn't really need to touch it. Like it's really perfect by itself. He kind of just had them interpolate it, and I think it stands alone like that. But it's dope to just see youngins that's like never heard that song, and I'm like, the old girl in me's like, leave him off the porch, Zoe. Leave him off the porch.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, that's like a good example of like a song that's a sample, but like they didn't really do anything to it, but it's like reintroducing a song to like a generation that wasn't familiar with it.
Yeah, it was an like you could tell they redid the instrumentation on it, and re-sang it. I don't know who they had to sing it. I didn't look at the liner notes for that one, but it's dope.
And so, talking about the relationship between vinyl and history, with vinyl, you say you're physically passing down history through crates. And so today with streaming, there is a lack of focus on hard copies of music, like from CDs when we were growing up, from vinyl from when our parents were growing up. So how do you think this lack of emphasis on hard copies and physical music in today's industry influences the way that the music of today will be remembered and passed down in generations to come?
Well, interestingly enough, now working at Legacy and doing liner notes, I'm actually seeing that there's a resurgence of that coming back. I think music labels are actually putting a lot of effort into making physicals now, because they do see more for an aesthetic point of view, but not necessarily for what, like you're saying, like the historical point of view. But I do think that the lack of importance within the last decade has kind of affected us, because music has become so microwavable, where projects don't last long. Like I was talking to my best friend Mark earlier, and we were talking about SZA and how she was able to like extend the shelf life of both of her albums for so long. Like if you really think about it, a lot of people aren't having a 2-year album shelf life, and then she's putting out a deluxe 2 years later, and people are excited about it. You know what I'm saying? So I think it would help if we all focus on physicals, because it keeps us to, okay, I'm listening to it long. You have to listen to it with intention versus, all right, I'm just listening to it on Friday when it come out. All right, that was dope. And maybe I'll add a song to the playlist, or maybe it might, but this person dropping next week. So after that, that's out the rotation. Like, I think when you have a vinyl collection, you have to literally pick out the record. You have to put it on there. You might, if some DJs, if you're a DJ and you like that, you can, switch it around really quick. But I think most people just genuinely, you sit with it and have more of a moment, and that passing that down and passing that intentionality down. Like I say, like for my future kids, I want them to know what my music taste was dope, so they can know what was going on or what I enjoyed to listen to, and they can take that and then build on that. And that could be foundational to what they listen to. So,
and even when like you're getting a physical copy, like back in the day, if you're like, I'm gonna go buy this CD, you're like, I'm taking this money to spend on this, so I'm gonna sit with this. Versus like streaming, you're like, oh, 10 albums came out today,
right? Yeah, like I remember the first CD I bought with my own money. It wasn't the first CD I ever had. It's the first one I took my summer youth money and I went to the mall and I got it. It was Graduation by Kanye. And I felt like, I think around that time I was actually graduating too, or like I had just graduated the year before. So I was like, oh, like that. I remember like it was like a big fold out poster in the CD. Like he had like, he's known for his like aesthetics. So I was like, oh, I remember literally opening up this whole thing. I was like, oh, I want to put this on my wall.
Yes.
So I think bringing back that feeling actually brings back like how much we would cherish what we're listening to.
Yeah, you appreciate it.
Yeah.
I had like a fun question about liner notes.
Mm-hmm.
So like I know we talked about you have like the different themes and stuff, but let's say you have a liner note session, hypothetically, where everyone gets to press their own vinyl record.
Oh, this is fun.
This vinyl is a compilation of songs. So we're talking about Zoe's specific.
Okay.
So it consists of your top 5 A-sides of all time and your top 5 B-sides. I know this is a hard question. Any era, any genre, what songs are you choosing?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, fun fact, I used to actually have a podcast called Top 5 by Zoe.
Okay.
And I used to ask people these questions, but it would be fun to ask them because I didn't have to answer them. Woo, okay.
I know it's a hard question, but see what you think.
All right, I'm gonna think of the first few things that come to mind. On the A side, Electric Relaxation by A Tribe Called Quest. Allure by Jay-Z. Whatever It Takes by Anita Baker. Soon I'll Be Loving You Again by Marvin Gaye. So that's my A side.
Hey, that was pretty impressive. You were able to come up with that.
Because these are the songs I listen to every day, honestly. Okay, B side, Monks by Frank Ocean.
Okay.
Frank. Yeah, period. I saw that on your shirt, so that made me think of Channel Orange. Let's see. I would say I'm gonna do another Jay-Z song. Frontin', Pharrell and Jay-Z. Front Desk by Boss. He's an artist on Dreamville.
Yeah, I know.
Queens, big Queens.
Oh, he's from Queens.
Yeah. I would do Moo by Doja Cat. I know she's controversial, but she's one of my favorite rappers right now. And I think I would do Il Na Na by Foxy Brown.
Okay. I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, that's my B-sides. Even though those aren't B-sides, but I'm going to put that on my B-side.
Yeah, I know it's a very hard question.
That's my Liner Notes mixtape, y'all.
Yes. I would get that, and then if you did a series, I would just get the different compilations. Yeah.
I can't wait. This is something I want to do anyway, but yes.
Now you see how when the question is turned back on you.
Yes.
So outside of vinyl, I know music informs your style as well, specifically your nails.
Oh, yes.
And so I know you're the founder. Yes, look at those nails. I know you're the founder of Claw Archives, which is a nail art page in homage to finger crowns on Black hands. But you personally love to get your nails painted, inspired by album cover artwork.
Yes.
And you say it is a way to give artists their flowers as well as celebrate the visualization of their art and imagery.
Yes.
So how has doing this regularly influenced your appreciation for album artwork as an art form in itself, from, its use of color to its correlation with what's sonically on the album to the storytelling, etc.?
Yeah. Well, shout outs to my nail artist, Melissa at Finesse Your Claws. She is an incredible artist. We started doing this like collaboration in about like toward the end of 2020, and what I love about her is that literally I can bring her anything. Like, I don't even give her a prep like ahead of time. I literally bring it to her during my session, and she's able to copy paste like literally in her brain how she's painting things. So she hand paints everything. And I think those details, like, I've always been an appreciative person of art. Like I said, anytime I travel, I like to go to a museum or a record store. So looking at things visually and the choices that people make in terms of when they put out an album, like, that's another thing that I'm very appreciative of, because I think from the color to the outfit to the hair, like, all of that goes into, creating this body of work, because that's the first thing you see before you hear it. Even on digital, like, you see an album cover. If it doesn't look that compelling, you may not give it a try, because unless it's somebody you actually like, you know what I'm saying? So, I started doing that. And in this set, it's very pink. I don't know if you guys can see. Kim didn't want me to tell her in advance, so I had to smuggle my record over. But this one is Notorious Kim by Lil Kim. And honestly, Lil Kim, I mean, it goes without saying, like, she is one of the most influential people in hip hop. to me. Not only from who she is, from her style to her raps to her album covers. Like, nobody can forget the hardcore album cover. Like, how many people have emulated that, redone it over. And I think this album specifically, Notorious Kim, doesn't get enough of credit. Like, if we think about it, it has like how many licks is on here, or no matter what people like, no matter what people say. Like, those are her bops like at that time. And I think after the 90s, like, a lot of those 90s artists were trying to find their transition into what they were doing in pop culture. And it's like, honestly, everything that Kim has done, and even like I'm Foxy as well, but like Kim specifically, like, she was having runway clothing, like, Donatella Versace and all these things, and she was on red carpets with like tiny little like she was doing all the things that people are doing now then, and getting a lot of heat for it then. Like, her style was just very robust and vibrant and flamboyant in a way that a lot of people was scared to do, especially in the 2000s. Like, she was able to create her own lane. So I wanted to pay homage to her because I just want her to know how much she's revered and what she has influenced, like, little girls like me who would never wear half of the things that she wore, but felt more confident to be like, yo, Lil Kim was able to do that, I can do this. Or she was out here rapping with like, she was rapping with Biggie, like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, people like her, I think, like, really, because we've used to seeing them for so long, it kind of just gets like normalized, like, yeah, that's Lil Kim. But like, let's really understand who this little person who has such a robust big voice and style and flashiness was. So yeah, this one was for Kim.
So nice.
Yes.
And that you're able to give her flowers.
Yes, I love some Kim.
It's like the intricacies too of the nails. Like, I saw that when I first saw you do it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Thank you. So yes, shout out to Melissa. She always executes like anything I ask her. So,
but since we're talking about album covers, you're talking about like all the different, how it is an art form in itself, but album covers really are the first impression of music, like, because you see it before the music is heard. So when you're digging, whether physically or digitally, what about an album cover intrigues you enough to listen to or buy a record?
Color, creativity, use of patterns. So when I'm looking at an album cover, I'm always trying to think of the behind the scenes intention. Like, I'm always thinking of, okay, why did they pick that color? What made them wear that outfit? Is it compelling? Like, because honestly, you have to sell the record, right? So it's like, okay, what did they want to convey to make me pick it up? And I think that's what's the biggest part of an album cover. I always joke about like the 70s. Like, I think I saw it become a thing actually about, they was talking about like the 70s lean. Like, if somebody's leaning on an album cover, you know it's about to be good. Or even just like the groups and like how they had on their tuxes, or however the girls when they had their fros and the outfits. Like, I think a lot of the innovation in art, like, that's telling what you are about to listen to. So it's the same with logos, like intriguing logos like this is like, oh, sound, oh, the arm, oh, the ear. Like, I know what I'm getting when I'm talking about it, right? Or when I'm hearing it. So those are always the first things that I look at, and basically just trying to tell the story before I hear it.
But yeah, I'd say album cover is definitely very important to marketing. But I know we mentioned earlier with the album covers, like, and you talked about Lil Kim, but just giving people their flowers. So in the spirit of giving flowers, who are some artists that have released music this year in 2024 that you want to give flowers to?
Number one, Doechii.
I knew he was going to say that.
I feel emotional about this because I've been, and I'll be like, I'm the one, I've been following her since the beginning. Like, I discovered Doechii probably like late 2021, 2022. And just, I think I had the same conversation with my best friend of like the beauty of seeing an artist develop their craft. Like, a lot of the artists that I'm fans of they are craftsmen in what they do. And just seeing her come from early stages of what she was doing in terms of rap, and like people earlier in her career were saying, oh, she sounds like Azalea Banks and all these other people, which I like Azalea Banks' music, so that's an unpopular opinion, but I do really enjoy it. To coming into her own and being able to be kind of genreless in a way, like in the forefront she's a rapper, but she's able to do rock, she's able to do house, she's able to sing. Like multifaceted artists like her deserve everything that like she's getting right now. Like even the Grammy nod that she's getting is like well deserved. I'm supremely and extremely proud of her, because just seeing her evolution and taking advantage of the moment too, because I think she's like taking advantage of every opportunity. Her Stephen Colbert performance, if you haven't seen it, it's immaculate. She self choreographed it, and just watching that from another, like again, from the production perspective of how they're all attached with the braids, how they're moving and choreographing every move, how she's moving the mic, how she's still keeping center, noticing all the cameras, how she's paying attention to the little minute details. It's like, for someone who has like it was for best new artist, she's moving like a vet. Like for me, being a brown skinned, dark skinned Black girl who feels like in that industry, like a lot, that's colorism is a big thing. And so for her being that artist to come out, and it's like talented AF and doing everything to the T, like to the top, it's like, oh yeah, like she's a superstar. Like so she gets all her flowers. And I guess the other person on the guy side that I feel deserves like their flowers this year was Leon Thomas. He had to me the best R&B album this year. And not only, I think one thing that I like about him is he was able to come into a lane that existed and kind of became like, you know how everybody said the toxic R&B. Mm-hmm. I think he was able to come into that, but also come into it with songwriting. I would say Leon Thomas has the perfect balance of being able to express his feelings as a man, but also giving you a vibe, but also making it so like introspective and artistic, but it doesn't feel heavy. But it can be if you really like think about it, but it's not. And then he also does this thing, and if somebody knows, please tell me, what is the plugin that he uses on his voice to make it seem like it's like empty and hollow, but not really? Like I need to talk to an engineer about this, because I don't know what it is, but I love it, because I think one of the most distinct things about being a singer is your tone. And I think how you stand out on a record makes you want to listen to that artist. So it's like, and you know this being a singer, right? Like you have a unique voice, because your voice actually, it's funny because your singing voice doesn't sound like your talking voice.
Oh yeah, people.
Yeah. So it's like interesting how when people are able to craft their own tone, and that compels me, because I think that there's an intentionality that goes into it. So,
and I was looking up something. I don't know if this is the right plugin, but I know, like, you know how he like speeds his voice up and like that stuff. Yes. I think it's called Speed. They said it's like something he uses, because I think that's something that's like very unique to him. Like that kind of makes his music sound a little different,
right,
than everybody else's. But I agree, both Leon Thomas and Doechii. I remember the first time I heard Persuasive, I was like, okay,
oh yeah,
he's going somewhere.
That was also the record where I said, oh, she's out of here. Like prior to that, I was already listening to her prior. That she had a single called Crazy, and that's the one where it's more high upbeat and she's yelling, and that's the one people likened her to Azalea Banks. So I was like, oh, she's given that, and she's going there. And once she had the Persuasive, I was like, oh, she's out of here. And then when SZA got on, I was like, oh, she's gone. So it literally is, I feel like a proud sister, like just watching her, like that's my girl, for real, for real.
Yeah, and it shows like the versatility, because those records are not alike each other at all. But they both like hold their own.
Yes.
She's doing her thing. And Leon, yes, of course, is doing his thing.
Oh yeah.
But I know another artist that you were able to actually do your nails for and you're able to present to her was Rapsody, Please Don't Cry album. You said it was your first time actually giving an artist like their flowers in that way in person.
Yeah.
But what did that experience mean to you?
Well, it was dope because she had an album signing at Legacy, and I think when I found out about it, I was like, I already was intrigued by the album cover art. And that was, I think I got my nails done doing that before I even actually heard the album. So it was cool because she had came on her album release date. And honestly, that was a beautiful experience because like I said, like you said, giving the artist their flowers in person for something that I I do just off the love, and just seeing her reaction, and she was just so like, oh my God, like she was like showing her like her team, like, oh my God, y'all see this? Like, and I think people don't I think that's the unique thing about doing it, because I know that artists get like pictures and posters in their art, and that's not to minimize anything, because again, I didn't physically make the art, but I think again, just to show appreciation to the intention, and even her telling me her process, and then meeting her creative director, and he got to take a picture, like, because he was like, oh my gosh, like this is what I created for it. So those are the things that I do it for. Yeah.
And it's like you took the time to do your nails, because I know that. How long would you say that takes?
So this one was actually quick. And I say quick as in like 2.5 hours. But generally, my nail appointments are about 4 hours.
Yeah, so you took the time.
I know people say that. I know I always tell people that, but like I think I love Melissa so much.
She's very talented. Like, that is very intricate.
Thank you.
And then lastly, about like album covers, we're getting back into the top 5. Your top 5 album covers of all time.
Ooh. The first one I'm going to say is, all right, let me get the tribe out the way, Midnight Marauders. But I will say, I was given an explanation. That is the most, to me, outside of Low End Theory, I feel like is one of their biggest ones, where it's the outline of the figure and the red and the green. But I think Midnight Marauders took that up a notch, in the sense that not only did they have their iconic figure on the front with the stripes, on the back it had all these different artists from that time. So it's like they're forever in history because their pictures are on the back of that album. So, and then the red and the green, I think, is just such strong symbolism for us, and very strong and important colors to Blackness in general. So that's my first one. The second one that comes to mind is the I Want You album cover by Marvin Gaye. It's the brown one with the Sugar Shack dance painting on it. I think that I love, and that's a nail set I want to do. And I actually, shout out to the creator that actually did a nail set to that, because oh my goodness, I saw, y'all thought my nail sets take long. I saw hers, I was like, yeah, she probably took at least 2 days to do that. But that is one of the most like iconic pictures that I feel like eventually I want to like do something like museum, like with what I'm doing with liner notes. But like that's something I would like want to hang in a museum. Like if I could have like a liner notes museum, it would be that. Like that one is like one of the first albums that I think of. I think another one, like just to bring it to hip hop, that I would do would be Enter the 36 Chambers by Wu-Tang, just because I think culturally they're all masked on this cover, and it has the iconic Wu-Tang symbols. Like I feel like that is one of the most music logos, and we can have that conversation another day about like iconic music logos. Like Wu-Tang is the most global logo you can ever think of that came from music. And I think that album to me just represents New York. It represents hip hop. Like I always have the joke, if you were to tell an alien about hip hop, what it sound like, what's the album, I think Into the 36 Chambers would be it, because it just expresses like so many different voices, cadences. But again, back to the album cover, they all have on the white hoodies. I mean, the black hoodies with the white masks. And I think like that just embodies like who we are. Like it doesn't matter that all these people was in the group. It's just the music is just good. And so I think like it makes you be like, oh, I need to listen to that. Doechii's album cover is an homage to Minnie Riperton's album, and she's sitting in a chair and she has the lion. What was it?
Is it the one with the blue background?
Yes, with the blue background. Yeah. She has the lion sitting on the side where she actually had a real lion there to execute. And I think that one is another one of my favorite album covers ever, because just again, like just seeing that, like there's a clip, like if you could search it on YouTube, where she was actually like, they was trying to prep her for the lion, and the lion was getting up and like getting still. I'm just like, yo, you really sat there with the lion to get this done, girl. Like, could not be me. And again, she's the type where, again, she's a person who does not look like what her voice sounds like. So it's just like another signs of strength to me, of like just seeing that and just how she's so delicate with the dichotomy of the lion sitting there. So that's another album cover. Blueprint by Jay-Z. I think it's just, again, looking at it, like he has a cigar in his hand, the album is blue, and it's just like outlining what, the blueprint of who he is and who he is to hip hop. So that would definitely be another one that I feel like is, like, in terms of art, it's not the most artistic, but I feel like it's the most iconic. I'm trying to think if there's one more.
What you said, Wu-Tang, you said Jay-Z, you said Minnie Riperton, you said
Midnight Marauders.
And then you said I Want You.
Oh, I did. Okay, so I said 5. Okay,
five. Top 5.
Top 5.
And so we talked about your musical upbringing. We talked about liner notes. We talked about your creative expression through nails. So overall, when it comes to music specifically, what would you say is your ultimate goal? And what is the footprint you aspire to leave in this space?
You got some good questions, Cam. My ultimate goal is to make sure that the legacies of our people are etched in history forever. At our anniversary, we had Mr. Cecil McBee there, and something that he said to me was that he felt like, because he's 89 years old, a lot of the artists from his time, he was nervous that with our generations and the younger generations and seeing how music in the world has changed so much, that a lot of the artists from that era would essentially be erased. And because of, like we were talking about streaming earlier, and people aren't urged to go and dig and research. But he said actually coming to liner notes brought, like he said this way, his eyes was a little glassy, and he was just like, that brought back that hope for me at my age to think that, it's not lost. He's like, the spirit put me in this room to see that. And I was like, that gave me chills, and even just saying that gave me chills again, because it's like, that is exactly what I do it for, is to make sure that the people like him, who has played alongside giants, but also had his own musical journey, that history isn't lost. Having liner notes in that community, we're all sharing stories, not only about the artists, but our personal connection with these artists and the music. And those, I want to tell Black stories, and I want to make sure that history, whether it doesn't have to just be about the artist, it's like your story, like, is shown through, and how that art impacted your art, and in tandem that will still pass that down to future generations. So that is my hope, is to keep that alive, to preserve us, to make sure that, we're archiving what we're doing, and we're passing those down through crates.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. And so, like I said, we spoke about liner notes, spoke about your nails. I know you also have, it's the 9c.co, is that how you say it? And so I know we didn't get much into that, as it's like less music focused.
Yeah.
But as a creative entrepreneur, what advice would you give to other Black women and creatives that aspire to create businesses and musical spaces that they might not yet see?
Trust yourself. Trust yourself. I think that oftentimes, like, as a Black woman, we know that we have the ability, we have the potential, we have the foresight, we have the actual motivation to do certain things. But I think sometimes we may play the background, or may, hesitate or take a step back, or not move forward on something just because we're like, all right, we're thinking about how we're going to be perceived, or second guess ourselves. And I think I've done that within my my creative journey, I should say. And I think that we have an amazing instinct that I think a lot of other people don't have. And I'm saying specifically Black women. We have that instinct. Y'all know it. Your mothers know it. And I think trust it.
Good advice. Trust, and it's simple.
Yeah,
it might not be easy,
and it's not.
It's
simple, but it's not.
Yeah.
Exactly. You said it right. It may not be easy, but it's simple.
Simple.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what is up next for you, Zoe? For liner notes, for whatever you have coming up, let us know.
Definitely more fun, more experiential things. And then like I said, we're moving into the digital space. So we were featured in a magazine called Ralph Mag, and we now have a recurring segment in that magazine. So that is what we will be having and hosting. So keep an eye out for that. And we also will be curating our own digital space and membership. So right now it's open and anybody can come to an event, and it's never going to be something that's super exclusive. We just want to make sure that you have perks and benefits when you come as well, outside of when you come to the event. So stay tuned. We're going to have a YouTube channel as well that's coming on the pipeline. We got a lot of things happening. I'm excited. Like it's so many things, but I just want to make sure that we're cherishing the community overall.
That's exciting. And then with liner notes, since we're talking about liner notes, I know you have a jacket, right?
Oh yes,
yeah,
this is our
merch.
You can't see the back. It got the music. No, I can't turn. But anyway, yes, we're gonna have more merch for sure. This was from the record store day 420. We had this drop, a Letterman jacket, and it is our most requested merch ever. And I mean, I love it because it's so versatile. But yeah, it's in collaboration with Legacy. So yes, keep an eye out. We definitely gonna bring some more merch coming back.
Dope. Thank you. And then where can we follow you on socials, liner notes, all your different creative endeavors? Where can we find out?
Yes, so you can follow Liner Notes at Liner Notes Vinyl Club. It's literally all one, no underscore. You can follow me at Zoe Veranda, ZOE_VERANDA. That's just my first name and my middle name. And I just wanted to say, Kim, like, congratulations for starting this podcast. Also, congratulations, you dropped a project not too long ago, and I listen to it. Like when people actually post their music, I make the intention to listen to it. So it takes a lot to faith on yourself to step out and do that. So congratulations on that. I wanted to give you your flowers while you were here. So we look forward to that. And so, yeah.
Thank you, Zoe, and thank you for coming today to Angle of Sound podcast. Hey. And you can follow us at Angle of Sound on Instagram. You can follow me, Cam Sakara, on Instagram as well, CAMSAKKARA. You can follow us on YouTube. That is it.